Hi, Film Addicts. Welcome back to part two with John Evershed. Thank you, John, for coming back for part two. And so John Evershed is he is an award-winning, done award-winning library of shorts, TV series, and movies, including 2 Annies for Happy Tree Friends for Best Animated TV Series, and for the winner of the Best Animated Feature at the Berlin Festival for Dick Figures, the movie, and he's generated over 6 billion video views on YouTube for Mondo Short Library. And we want to talk about the adult animation white paper, which is his next edition is coming out now. It's a free annual report, so stay tuned how you can get your white paper with John Evershed. So let's welcome him back. John, welcome back.
Hi, Merlin.
Yeah, so we were discussing how you grew up in Canada, right? But then you moved to LA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and that's where San Francisco. So there you were talking about how you were raising funds, and back then you were able to raise funds for entertainment. But now Silicon Valley is kind of like they're not too interested in entertainment per se, right? Are they still probably interested in like video games or that kind of a thing? Or the toys and merchandising aspect?
There's still a big appetite. There's still a big appetite for video games. For some reason, that they're more comfortable with that business than they are in movies or television.
Yeah, one of my friend is raising funds right now. Ludin, he's raising funds in Silicon Valley, and he explained to me that Silicon Valley is interested more like they're not interested in 3x or 10x. They're interested in 40x. They're interested in bigger numbers. Yeah. And they're more interested in they understand the video game model, and like I think Ludin is working with Unity, and he's raising funds for, he said, Asian filmmakers. So I'm just cheering him on that he gets those funds. But because the investors that I'm talking to as well is that it's not their world entertainment, and from past history, a lot of the investors, like they have said to me in private, but basically they just didn't films didn't go, films weren't completed, they didn't make their money back. So the reputation that they hear from Hollywood is not positive for them to go down that road when all their fellow investors have just not had good feedback on films not being produced. They're not getting good revenue, and especially with the pandemic, people have kind of been pulled back because of the theaters won't even open. So it's very interesting when you learn about investors and financing. And I don't know if you know, but a lot of my audience knows by now that like I also have the podcast Girls Guide to Investing. So we have a lot of guest speakers coming on, their wealth managers or hedge fund managers, and they talk about, investing and what people look for. But we look at Elon Musk, pretty much look at his tweets, and he's pretty much will tell you space and crypto, and also Mark Cuban with NFTs. Oh my gosh. But but everything is about the art right now. So the NFTs is about the art, and the animation is about like the art. So art is really at a leader right now. What kind of artist do you need to be to get into the animation field? Like, do you do comic books? Are you a painter, a drawer, or illustrator?
I always recommend that artists get classic training, for drawing, color, motion, movement. It's a really, the cruel truth is you have to be gifted, right? It's just kind of one of those businesses where you need to be gifted, and hopefully you've got what it takes. It's interesting though that like there's also a lot of 3D artists, right? And that could be quite technical, and you have to have a special mind to be able to, move between the technical and the visual and everything. And there's only a handful of people that can really do that well. So it's a great business to get into, though, I think, for people if they're interested in it. People from a career standpoint, there's just so much demand for this stuff now.
Yeah, and especially, we hope that like it's a really, like Cal Arts is a really great school, USC, UCLA, obviously, in California. But the cost for the average artist, it's just not in their budget range. Like most artists, they're just not, let's face it, they're not very wealthy to go into those kind of. It's just too expensive. and they don't really teach art in high school. So it's just really amazing how anyone makes it. I had the good fortune to have John Oshima. He worked on Futurama and Simpsons and Gravity Falls. He was Emmy nominated and Annie's nominated. And he said that they had a great program in his high school for teaching animation. So he was really lucky. And he said he had mentors. So a lot of people, especially girls, I'm finding after hosting all these shows, girls usually don't have mentors. So I'm really hoping that like people that hear this really, help a girl, help a woman, a female, whatever adjective we're allowed to say. It's a rough road for a female artist, whether they're voiceover actor, writer, artist, but because you just don't bond like you do with guys, or you don't have that fatherly figure, that mentor. So we're trying to help help people, really find a mentor, or, or encourage them with the stories of our guests have come on. We've heard stories how like people have just got a PA job and then would meet someone and just go up the ladder. So they're really saying the positive feedback from our audience around the world. They're like, thank you so much. Your guests have just shared with us how they made it and really encouraged us, even though we know it's a very competitive field. So
yeah, adult animation used to be kind of notoriously a boys club kind of thing. It was sort of shock animation and sort of gross out animation. Like a lot of it was not very, it wasn't conducive to. More recently though, like Adult Swim, for example, they got their hands slapped for being too much of a boys club. And a lot of these buyers have mandates to find female directors, female writers, and there's a very active effort to try to change that. And I think it will change. I've seen already, like Fox has been good at finding, female-led series, and you're just seeing more and more of it. So we're about to do some research actually to break down, who's creating the shows, writers, directors, executive producers by their race and whether they're women or men or whatever. We're doing some research on that very thing to try to identify what's going on and then track it over time.
Yeah, and are they only just allowing someone that's really young that they would give them a chance? What if someone's a little bit older, an artist that so
it used to be a little bit more of an open door for experimental stuff, particularly on Adult Swim. But the trend has been towards more known IP, pre-existing IP, spin-offs, reboots, adaptations from, other things. And so you're getting writers in adult animation now that are coming from scripted television. And so the bar has been raised, particularly as we move away from comedy and into the genre stuff, that the types of shows that are getting bought and the types of talent that they're packaging them with, the bar just keeps raising literally month by month. So you get these packages, that are really top tier voice talent, top tier directing talent, top tier writing talent, the whole thing. It didn't used to be that case. It used to be kind of a quirkier offshoot, kind of place, but less so these days.
Yeah, it's like the people that like artists, like, we're trying so hard, like it just feels like this country club that you can never get into, no matter how hard you try. But you're like hoping that one person opens the door and just, gives you that shot, because you hear it over and over again. Most of the people that made it, they meet that one person that sees their value and gives them that shot, really gives them a shot. So there's always hope. Otherwise we're gonna watch Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, like there's always hope. So I
like mentorships in general. If you're a young person out there, find somebody that you really respect and literally approach them and say, look, I'm trying to break into the business. I'm a young person. I'm interested. You'd be surprised how many are willing to help, actually, because it's sort of, once you get to a certain point in your career, it's an honor to be asked and you want to give back. And it can be really helpful, I think, to open doors, point you in the right direction, give you advice. That one I learned a little late in my career, that mentors can be helpful. I had to sort of find that one out just late. later than I should have. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe we could inspire you on your white papers. Maybe you might have a group of people that would be willing to be mentors and, or something. So somehow our audience can figure out how to find them. Because the hardest thing is finding them and meeting them, especially with COVID. You can't really approach people who like stand back. You know what I mean? And so. But hopefully, we hear about young people too. But what about the people that have been working on their art and their craft? They're not like 20s or 30s, but they're just mastering their craft and becoming like, champagne or wine that's like really ready to pop. And just, are even considered like, it's like you're not young, but you got your art and your craft is like really just. You're really focused on it, and it's just like wine. Like the older the wine is, the more vintage the wine, or it's got to be a certain age. Those wines that are like sell for $300, $500 a bottle. We had a guest on Girls Guide to Investing. He had whiskey. They sell whiskey, and it's $10,000 a bottle for whiskey.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, it can also skin the other way. A friend of mine said, you know what your problem is? He was talking to me. He said, you're male, pale, and stale.
Oh, my God.
Like, damn, that's like pretty damning.
Oh gosh. Well, I just think it should be anyone that's has talent. That they should maybe just reserve have that percentage where it could be open to anyone that's new that just needs that shot. Not that they're like young, because then that's like discrediting people that have been working on their craft for a long time. And it shouldn't be like, oh, you're not a male, we just need females. Because then it's kind of like, what about those males who are males that, have been working on their art that need the chance? I'm always about like, if there's a way to have that like percentage that you look at that new talent, whether they're young, old, male or female or whatever, and give those people that deserve that shot a shot without saying, oh, it's this label or that label. But it's all about labels.
In the animation business, it seems to me that it's what did you last work on? So you got to get yourself inside a studio, maybe an independent studio where you can have an impact on a project, and then you kind of work your way up inside that studio. That seems like the most common path these days, is just sort of prove yourself within a studio system. If you're an animator, similarly, if you're a writer, you might hop around, obviously, like nobody really stays in one place very long, but they do tend to work in studios because, animation is a team effort, right? And so you got to find your way onto a team, even if I encourage like young producers that are trying to get in to simply go and answer studios' phones, because you'll answer the phones for about 3 days, and they'll look around and go, oh, we need some help on XYZ. And who can do it, and you're standing there. And so I encourage people, like producers in particular, like that want to break in, just go and answer the phones, and you'll get work.
That's good advice. That's really great advice. Yeah, it seems like you just need to get that foot in the door and meet people. And but I wanna lead to can you tell us and share with us, because your films that are upcoming films, can you share with us the ones that you had at Mondo and the new ones that you're working on, because you have so many projects that you've worked on. So if you'd like to share that with our audience, because they're probably waiting for you to talk about those.
Yeah. Well, look, it's a little sensitive because both projects are in various stages that I can't really talk about them, but here's what I can say. One project is about an aging vampire character who it's based on a comic book that we picked up the rights to, and it's going to be a TV series using that Trioscope system that I talked about, where we shoot in live action and composite into CG, and it kind of looks like a moving graphic novel. It makes sense, right? It originated as a graphic novel, this particular project. So it's kind of I would call it like it's I probably shouldn't talk about any more than that. So that project is in development. I have another one that's a Canadian-Polish co-production that is, this one is a indigenous futurist kind of thing. Okay, so it imagines a future where the only survivors in North America are the indigenous Indians, just for whatever reason, this particular post-apocalyptic, place, and it's set kind of in Canada, like in northern Canada, so it's a lot of snow, and it's what happens though is white man returns. So it's a little bit like history being told over again, but they have the knowledge, obviously, of what happened the first time.
Oh, the knowledge the first time. So Pale and Stale's coming, right?
Yeah. So that's a pretty cool project.
That sounds like, ooh, is that drama? Is that a drama? It sounds like more of a drama.
Yeah, it'll be a drama. And that's what I'm saying is like the trend now is away from, well, no, they're going to keep making like family sitcoms and stuff like that, as long, for the foreseeable future. But there's this whole new door opening to the kinds of content where you can, it'll be really, think about like that's relatively exportable, right? That's like a kind of a apocalyptic type of story. That will be exportable. So will this other, the Black Vampire thing, right? Easier than maybe a quirky, irreverent comedy from the US. That doesn't go in many markets, right? But these types of projects I'm talking about will export well.
Oh, great. Okay, so and then so that's two. So you have two that are like
I have one other one that I'm pretty psyched about, which it's basically about three rap recording artists, hip hop recording artists who, in like against their will, like they're not sure why, they're magically transported to 1969 on the road to Woodstock. And they're fish out of water, right? Because they're like these hip hop artists, and all of a sudden they're coming up against, the culture at the time that was sort of the closing ceremonies for the 60s, right? Like 1969. And it was the height of sort of hippie culture, if you will, right? So it's like this collision of like hip hop and hippie. And what happens is they learn that the only way they can get back to the future is they have to get they have to meet up with Sly Stone, the recording artist. He's like the kind of Wizard of Oz like character in the story. And so it's their journey to get to Sly and in order to get home again.
Oh, that sounds great. I'm hearing all the music right now, and it just sounds so magical and wonderful. And especially I think people like the 60s. I remember like we were so free, everyone said the 60s was a fun time, but I remember the 80s for my generation. 80s was like new, like you said, MTV, new wave, and oh my gosh, punk rock, and just it was just so fun. But then all of a sudden the 20s came, and you're like, what happened to the fun? There was no more fun. There was no more like the disco or anything. But these stories sound really great. So how do you pick these? You find these IPs from agents that pitch you, or you just find them from friends, or like how do you go about finding your IPs?
It's by hook or crook. Like I don't know if there's a science to it. It's a little bit more like I knew I was looking for a music project. That's how we came to the Woodstock project, right? I knew that I was I put out a pretty wide call for, hey, who's got IP out there that might sort of fit this. And I liked the Canadian Polish co-production thing opportunity because partly for financial reasons, because there's very generous tax credits on animation from Canada, and also there's indigenous tax credits up there. So I felt like financially we could I also knew that Triscope had a Polish co-production arm of their company, so that it opened up like European talent, Canadian talent, and it just, I guess we sort of like the financial structure underpinnings of it, and that's what made us. And we also like the just the story was cool, right? It's a cool story. I mean, that starts there, right? I mean, indigenous Indians that are like reliving, Return of the White Man. But also, and then with the comic book, I just thought the comic book was really handsome when I picked up the rights to that. And you can see tonally, these aren't like again, they're sort of, I'm trying to be ambitious about projects now, that we're working with to find things that really start to break new ground for adult animation that, so it's really new and fresh by the time we get to air with it, right? Because it'll just be something. I think the market, I'm sort of thinking about, like, I feel like the market's ready to accept these types of projects. It wasn't even maybe arguably as recently as maybe 18 months ago, but now it is, I feel.
Yeah, like Mimi DiTrani came on the show and she picked up a comic book. I think it's the first, I think she said the first all black comic book and the first female. So, and she's working on her deal, and so it's an amazing story. And so congratulations on that, because once again, I think anything's a great story, because Black Panther, it was smashing, and the talent on there and the director on there, just it just blew you out of the water, like how incredible it is. And and like that was a new director, and that actor was a new actor. And but they found a team. Like, he used the same people, and he had a team, and once again, males, but hopefully, you let some new female come in. I'm gonna plug that in, because everyone goes, they go, I know I have a lot more male guests than female guests. It's just because it was just a little harder to get the female guests on the show, actually. But so John, so you picked these out. You found this one. So you have your Indigenous project, you have your vampire project, and what did you say was the third one?
The Woodstock one.
Oh yeah, the Woodstock, the music one. So that sounds really incredible. We just really amazing. Is it going to be music that's already released, or even a combo of new music and music that's we've heard before?
Yeah, it'll be pre-existing, like Needle Drop, from that era, but it'll also be original hip hop kind of takes on some of that music.
Oh, that is cool. That is wild. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then can you share with us, like, so these are the things you're working on. Can you share a little bit about our listeners, if they want to participate in their white papers? How do they go about getting your new edition?
Okay, so the adult animation white paper is probably coming out, I'm thinking late next week. So today is April 1st. So something like, April, late next week. And you can find it if you go to highconcentrate.com. You'll find a link to download the white paper. It's free. It's like an 80-page document. It's really comprehensive analysis of all the current and upcoming series, broken down by genre, IP origin. It's a great tool for animators, writers, directors, producers, buyers that are interested in the overall adult animation category. And you can also find a link on that website, highconcentrate.com, one word. You can find a link there to what's called the Adult Animation Database, which is the underlying data behind the report that's updated on a daily basis with all current and upcoming series that are airing here in the U.S.
That's amazing. And so, there's going to be a new element to podcasts, which is going to be kind of like a clubhouse, where when we're talking, we'll have live listeners that can hear us. So maybe, cool. John, you can come back, like, a monthly thing when you're doing your white papers, and we can have a live audience if you like, if you have time. It sounds like you're really busy, but that's going to be one of the new features of podcasts, that it'll be like a clubhouse where we can hear people and talk to people while we're doing an actual podcast. So that could be something to share with your white papers, if you like. That's just something. So
I actually did a spot on NPR fairly recently that was a call-in show,
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. And so if people want to keep in touch with you, like they said, it's once again, I want to repeat it, because when it's audio, and so once again, it's a High Concentrate, right? That's your company, right? High Concentrate?
That's correct, yeah.
highconcentrate.com, and you can, sign up and get that white paper, which sounds amazing. So it's basically our listeners, if they can just get into a studio, and do they just keep on making their comic books and keep drawing and keep writing stories, and just keep plugging in there and just meeting people in the system, like you said.
I really encourage people to either do comics, or if you want to originate IP, for example, do comics, or podcasts are a good one now, right? For telling stories that might be that I call them seed formats, for things that can grow into larger programs. It's a great pathway to go.
Yeah.
That also those that phenomenon of the online comics is a big thing right now, and worth looking into. It started in Korea, but it's starting to take hold here as well.
Online comics?
Mm-hmm.
So what is that that you see comic books online, you mean?
Yeah. There's the name of the site's escaping me, but
okay.
But there's a site that's particularly.
We have a few minutes, so we can tell the people, our audience, our wonderful audience, our filmmakers. I mean, I'm so excited for them to check out your white papers at highconcentrate.com, and I'm so excited about your Afro horror, a black vampire based on a comic book, and then your Endurance, a futurism story about a global plague that only left indigenous North Americans alive, and then the white man, pale, tall, pale and stale, returns for a do-over. And so that sounds amazing. And then your Woodstock trick, the story of 3 hip-hop artists who are magically transported back to 1969 on the road to Woodstock, the unofficial closing ceremonies, and they're looking for slice loan. You know what? I love Back to the Future, so that to me is going to be a smashing thing. I mean, everyone loves vampires. Who couldn't go wrong with vampires? So, and I just want everyone to know, I'm just going to tell them, can they see any of your older works? Like you said, Dick Figures, the movie. Where do they see that? On a YouTube channel?
Hi, Marilyn. I'm sorry, I dropped off.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, so I was just telling the audience real quickly about where do they see Dick Figures, the movie? Where can they still see that? And Happy Tree Friends, is that?
You can buy it on iTunes. Dick Figures, the movie. Happy Tree Friends you can find on YouTube. Yeah.
Is that still called Mondo? YouTube's Mondo, or it's just they have to look up Happy Tree Friends or Dick Figures, the movie?
Sorry, if they're looking online, they can just look on YouTube for Happy Tree Friends. If they're looking on iTunes or Google Play or whatever, you should be able to find it as a downloadable movie for $1.99 or whatever.
Okay, great. And so if they want to keep up with you, do you have social media, or did they just go to your website?
Yeah, the best bet is honestly LinkedIn. To follow me on LinkedIn, because I'm pretty active on there, talking about what's going on in the adult animation space.
Yeah, and it is huge. Like, I think every guy that I know, if you're still allowed to say that, like almost every guy friend, they have adult animation, or you hear like another friend is getting an adult animation deal at Netflix or Hulu or one of the big boys. So John, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. You are fantastic, and I would love to have you come back, as one of my recurring guests, if you like. And it's just been a pleasure meeting you. You're so fantastic and so knowledgeable.
Well, thank you, Marilyn. It's been a real pleasure. I really appreciate you inviting me on your show.
You're welcome. And I want to thank you so much for listening. And that was John Evershed. And you can find out more. You can follow him on LinkedIn. And once again, you can get the adult animation white paper at his website, which once again is it's highconcentrate.com. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Until next week. Cheers.
Okay. Thanks, Merlin. Bye-bye.